All right, and we are back. Sorry for the technical difficulty we just had.
Power outage in the Bay Area.
Hey, man. California for you, right? Anyways, welcome back to the Wall Street Rundown, man. We're here to break down the market like we always do, man. So, again, we're talking about how the market finally kind of stopped bleeding today. We all three major index kind of a little bit, kind of, there's also some breathing room a little bit, So Nasdaq was up a little bit. The tech boys definitely came back. We talk about NVDA actually showing up a little bit also today. Like I said, I was kind of shocked they were actually moving even before their earnings. So that's gonna a little strange to me, but it's like, hey, I thought they're gonna be moving sideways. But overall, man, like after 4 days of straight red days, the market kind of give us a little bounce. So is it a full comeback? In my opinion, I don't know. It's probably the market just saying, hey, I'm still alive. There's still people buying the stock market here, so we all good. But overall, man, all eyes were in on Nvidia today. I mean, everybody and their mama watching Nvidia earnings and trying to make sure, like, the whole AI bubble talk that have been happening all the way around is actually not going to be true. But let's talk a little bit about the market first, and then we can jump on into Nvidia earnings and all of that stuff. So, what was your thoughts on, first of all, on the sell off, and second of all, on the little bounce we have today?
Yeah, I think we've been saying this for the last couple of sessions is that, once we start getting towards the end of the year, when you've had the type of year that we've had, especially in technology, lots of money managers would be selling their winners. And I think that that's what we've been seeing going into the end of this month and also, into the end of the year. So your Planeteers, your NVIDIAs, and all those other high flying stocks that have been doing really, really good, they started to get sold off. Now, I still think that we still have to worry about whether or not we get a rate cut in December on the 10th. And the odds of that happening are starting to go down for the simple fact that the Fed does not have any data. You know, all the data that we thought we would get during the government shutdown, we did not get at all. So with the with the data not being available, I'm unsure whether or not the Fed is going to cut. I still think they're going to cut because to me, the most important data that we need to be aware of is the job market. And the job market has been lagging and it has been slowing down. And I still feel like the Fed should cut just based on that information alone. So we'll have to wait and see whether they do or not. I can't say for sure, but I would be in the camp to expect them to still cut in December. Um, Now with NVIDIA, they really blew the earnings out of the water
Yep,
to kind
yep,
of give us an idea that we have not seen the top of this whole quote unquote AI bubble. So
yep. Well, Nvidia certainly laid the smackdown on the whole entire market, man. So let's talk about some of those numbers. $57 billion in revenue for Q3, crazy. That's up 62% year over year. Way, way, way above expectations. What did Fed Joe say? I'm all the way up. That's how it feels like. It's all the way up there. EPS hit $1.30 per share versus $1.26 expected. The data center, for me, that's the most impressive number. The data center number is $51.2 billion. I mean, that's like we talked about. This is the whole backbone of the whole AI machine. And the most important factor in every earnings is the forward guidance. The guidance for Q4, NVIDIA is projected to do about $65 billion in revenue. That's above the street's expectation of $62 billion. I mean, they didn't even hesitate. They said, we're going to smash this number, and this is what we're going to do it. So, yeah, NVIDIA didn't just meet expectation, they smashed right through it. I mean, like I said, they give the middle finger to everybody who's saying that this AI bubble is coming, like literally. So, let's talk a little bit about those numbers, man, because those are crazy astronomical numbers.
so the biggest thing that I looked at, as you mentioned before, is that forward guidance. So, going from 57 billion in Q3 and expecting another 65 billion in Q4 tells me that there's still room to grow. Like that's what that obviously says. Another thing that I heard on the call is they've already started talking about the next chip
Yep.
development, Rubin, after Blackwell. We
Mhm.
thought Blackwell was going to be the next big thing, and now we're starting to hear about Rubin and what it can do.
Yep.
And Jensen Huang, in my opinion, is two steps ahead of everybody. And if I'm not mistaken, these numbers came in with zero revenue coming from China. And it sounds like they're pivoting to other countries to get to kind of make up for that revenue. There was a big dinner in the at the White House not too long ago, where the Saudi Arabian prince was there, and you had other technology gurus in that
Mhm.
same room. So NVIDIA is looking to, again, we've been saying it, they're building the backbone of what this whole AI build out is going to look like. Now, there are some other companies like AMD and Broadcom and Google who are building chips to compete with them in that space. But for right now, I just don't see any of those companies taking any sort of market share or anything like that. So NVIDIA
Yep.
is still the 800-pound gorilla
Yep.
in the room right now. So
Yep. And I'm glad you mentioned the Rubin thing, because if you guys gonna think about it, as more language models is being created and they become more and more mainstream and people are using it more and more, it's gonna require like a large context. They're probably gonna require like high performance, hardware. They're going to increase dramatically when it comes to processing power and all these different things. So Nvidia is actually thinking like 10 steps ahead of everybody. So I know you just mentioned like all these different companies that actually trying to build their own chips. They have to catch up. I think by the time they catch up to Nvidia probably be on level 20. You know what I mean? So it's like they have to like catch up. And there's no way for you to skip levels when it comes to the chip building. You have to build the basis, then you start building everything else on top of it. And if those companies are just starting to like, oh shoot, we need to start building chips, Nvidia is already up there. They're already thinking about, okay, as this grows, how much more processing power we need, and they're just building on top of that. That's what we call moat in business, man. Like they're literally like, we figured our lane and we're just gonna stay in this lane and just get innovative, innovative, innovative. Hopefully they never get to the place where Apple is right now, but I think they're way, way still early on to get to where Apple is when it comes to like the moving slow and not being innovative and stuff. But I
and
mean,
and
this
ano-
is crazy.
yeah, and another thing I want to mention is when you look at how this whole AI build out is happening, you know, things just get faster, things get smarter, they reason better, and all of that to me comes with more chips.
Yep.
So you don't use less chips to get faster. Like now, unless you start to have more compact chips in smaller segments, and that's totally different. But
Mhm.
to me, I mean, this is just one of those things where we don't know where the ceiling is yet. We don't. So for anybody to say that, oh, we've hit a bubble or we're at the top, that to me is a little bit ambitious
Yep.
because again, you can't I don't think we've seen the ceiling of what is capable from the AI front just yet.
Nope.
You
Nope.
know, I keep saying, could you overshoot and overestimate? Possibly,
Sure.
but
Yep.
all of the things that we've seen what AI can do and what the use cases can be, it's just going to continue to get better and better and better. So
Mhm.
I am not going to sit here and try to short a company and think that I'm smarter than Jensen Huang because I'm just not I'm not that person. And I
Mhm.
did hear on the call today where someone asked him about the depreciation change, and he said that the technology has gotten better.
Mhm.
So therefore, they feel comfortable that the use case life of these chips can be extended based on new technology. So that was
Facts.
very interesting.
Facts. And you guys actually got to think about it too. It's like Nvidia doesn't really sell to consumers; they sell to businesses, and countries, for God's sake. So those companies need Nvidia to be able to do certain things that they gotta do. You know what I mean? So again, that's another level of like, okay, you're not selling to individuals, you're selling to companies. So go figure, man. They're gonna need Nvidia's services. Now, in my opinion, and I know Wale will agree with this, the biggest winner in this whole thing is probably TSM. TSM is like one of the world's largest pure play when it comes to semiconductors, family manufacturing chips for firms like Nvidia, Apple, AMD, and so many more. So I just named like top companies, excluding Nvidia. Apple is in there, AMD is in there, and so many more, right? So Nvidia used to actually call TSM as if there's no TSMs, there's no Nvidia. That's how crazy TSM is important is to NVIDIA. You know what I mean? So think about them like the manufacturer. So again, NVIDIA designs the chips. They don't manufacture it. They don't build it. They don't make it. You need specialized equipment to be able to make that. And guess who has those equipment? TSM. So let's talk about that, man. I know you prepared a whole presentation when it comes to TSM, and I know you've been talking about this since last year. I hope people are listening. NVIDIA, I mean, TSM is the underdog when it comes to this, and people are not, I feel like people are still not paying attention to them.
So one of the things that we talked about on previous shows is when NVIDIA made their monster run, personally, I missed out, like when they were just going crazy.
Crazy. Yep.
But as I did my due diligence and thinking who else is going to benefit from this demand for their chips, it was TSM was the first one that came to mind because remember, Billy says that they design the chips. TSM is the actual manufacturer of those chips. So as demand continues to increase, TSM has been one of the biggest winners in this space. And I think that after Broadcom, they were the next trillion-dollar company that grew.
Yep.
And I think that they're going to continue to grow. So let me get this presentation rolling and just put some clarity on this real quick. So, all right, let's share my screen. All right, perfect. So TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, we're going to go into their business and manufacturing um, information. So they are a pure play semiconductor foundry. So again, what it means is that they are a chip builder. They build the chips. You know, they're the ones that manufacture them. They put it together. They partner with other companies like ASML to get some of the manufacturing equipment that's needed to do a lot of the small inscriptions that happen in these chips. So, you know, they do partner with other companies because again, they don't build the machines; they use other people's machines. They revenue comes from wafer and fabrication and advanced node manufacturing. Very capital intensive model. So lots of equipment, like the equipment they use in this process costs millions of dollars. So it's very, very capital intensive. We look at their customers and competitors. So again, they are customers for a lot of the big names out there. Apple and NVIDIA, that's pretty much like the biggest names that they work with. AMD is another company that they work with. So when people keep talking about, you know, AMD possibly eating away into NVIDIA's market when it comes to AI chips, guess who still has to build those chips? TSMC. So
Yep.
that's why I like TSMC as one of the most important companies in this whole AI build out. Now, there are other companies that do compete with them. Intel, Samsung, Texas Instruments, and Broadcom are also chip manufacturers as well. But if I'm not mistaken, I don't think any of them scale as much as TSMC when it comes to building chips. Their largest revenue drivers are AI and HPC, smartphones, and automotive chips. So again, they build chips for a lot of different things, but AI is one of the biggest growth drivers in their space. So here's look at their revenue growth. They've had consistent revenue growth pretty much over the last couple of years. I know they did see a dip in 2023, but if you look at 2024 at the end of the year, they made a huge jump from 69 all the way to 92. So very, very consistent revenue growth over the last 5 years. And I think that this number will continue to jump. We look at their profit margins over time, very consistent in the high 30s. So again, nice revenue growth. And even with the dip in revenue growth, you can kind of see that their profit margins did not dip that much. So net income, very, very good over that same time frame going back from 2020 to 2024. Free cash flow. So again, this is another metric I kind of look at, especially when it comes to established companies that have been around for a long time, is how much money do you have that you get to use to reinvest into the business? And you can kind of see that that number has grown pretty substantially, which is one of the reasons why I'm pretty sure that they decided to build those two big factories in Arizona so that they could have more capacity and have more need to build out these chips. And to me, when people keep talking about a bubble, somebody like TSMC would not go out and build these huge factories if they didn't see the demand growth over the next couple of years. So that's one of the another thing that I tend to look at is when you look past the headlines, a company like TSMC is building a huge factory in Arizona to meet the demand. So to me, the demand there is real. So it's another reason why I'm a believer that this AI build out is not we haven't seen the top just yet. Valuation. So we look at their PE ratio. So trailing PE about 28.40, and their forward PE is 23.42. So I would not say that they're a cheap company, but I wouldn't also say that they're not expensive. And if you want to ever compare them to their peers, look at Intel, Broadcom, and Texas Instruments to kind of see where they are priced when you look at PE comparisons. Texas Instruments, from my understanding, they don't build AI chips. I think a lot of their chips go into like cars and things like that. So they're not a huge competitor in the AI space when it comes to chip making. Look at their balance sheet. So we've got a pretty solid balance sheet. Look at the total assets, over 214 billion in assets and only 77 billion dollars in liabilities. So very good company that's not highly leveraged. Got a lot of equity in the business, 68 billion in cash. Quick ratio is very, very good, 2.40. So they've got a lot of ready available cash that they can use to pay off any of their short-term liabilities if they really wanted to. And debt to equity ratio, this is amazing, very low debt when it comes to equity in their business, not very highly leveraged. Revenues are growing at a good speed, lots of cash, good demand in their space. This to me is a very Teflon long-term business that I would, that I do like. This is their operating margin. So if we look at their operating margins, again, high 40% operating margin. So again, a lot of their profitability comes from their core business, not from investments, not from acquisitions or things like that. It comes from their core business of building chips. Very, very good numbers that you like to see with companies that you want to be a part of long term. Most analysts have a strong buy for TSMC. Average target price is 371.67, which shows that there's still a lot of upside in this stock. I don't know where they're trading just yet. I think they're just below 300, but I think in the after hours after NVDA reported, they are up maybe about 3%. So again, we look at their strengths. Leading global foundry, they're the dominant company in that space. Strong margins, low leverage, and then as long as this AI build out continues to gain momentum, and to me, I think it continues to grow. They've got a lot of momentum going in the right direction for TSMC. Now, one of the huge risks I will say is that there's always that talk about China invading Taiwan. I don't know if that's ever going to happen because I know if China does invade Taiwan, that's going to cause a global war with the United States because the United States has made it very evident that they will defend Taiwan. So I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but it is a risk that you have to be aware of. I just don't think that China is that stupid. Um, they do have a lot of concentration when it comes to AI. So if this whole AI build out slows down, or if any hiccups happens in this whole AI build out, that could hurt their margins and could hurt their business. Semiconductor business is very cyclical, so you have to understand that there are, high and lows that come from, time to time when it comes to their business, and then also huge capex requirements. So again, the tools and the equipment that they use to build these chips cost millions of dollars. So if they want to expand and they have more demand, they have to invest heavily in new equipment, which is not cheap. So, there are companies like Tokyo Electron and ASML that build the equipment for these manufacturers, and those things are not cheap. So expansion does come with more capex spending. But overall, to me, when you look at the summary of TSMC. They have a compounded annual growth rate of above 20% over the last 5 years. Margins are volatile, but they are strong. Valuation pricing, they're a growth company. And then they have a very, very robust balance sheet. This balance sheet to me is Teflon, probably one of the best that I've seen from some of the companies that we've looked at. So to me, I still will stand by this and say that TSMC is the most important company in this whole AI build out. So very good company. If you are a long-term investor, I would definitely have them on my list for sure.
Yep, yep. And again, my view is like if you compare TSM and Nvidia, like you will have a good solid I guess two companies that you can kind of keep an eye on, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So but again, you still got to take into account that if AI demand slow or there's some type of um you know big other big competitor that comes out that might eat up a TSM or profit, or maybe like Nvidia decide to, hey, we're gonna bring somebody else to actually build the chips also. So you gotta take all that into account as an investor, right? But overall, I think TSM is in my opinion, is one of the one of the companies that's big that people are still not paying attention to. People pay attention to like the big ones, right? But it's like TSM still kind of like creeping along real slow because you can promise all these different Ruben and BlackRock and all this different one and Vera and all these different things that um, Nvidia's trying to build, but without TSM, those things are not coming out. You know what I mean? They can't be
And I,
built. So
and I think from what I also heard is that when Google their chip, I think they're going to be using TSMC to build that chip when it's ready.
yep,
So again, and then I will say this as well: if you just want to be have exposure to the chip business, and you don't want to choose between TSMC or between Broadcom or between NVIDIA, the SMH is a very, very good ETF to
SMH.
buy because I think
Yep.
the top two holdings in the SMH is TSMC and NVIDIA.
Yeah, yep.
So you
There you
get
go.
you get exposure to both of them just through one ETF.
Yep. Yep.
So there are some other ones like SOXX, but the SMH is probably the most popular one that I'm aware of, and it gives you a broad exposure to all of the chip names if you just want to be in that sector. So to me, that's a way to diversify your risk, and also to um, ride the NVIDIA story and the TSMC story and the
Mm-hmm.
AMD story and the
Mm-hmm.
Broadcom story all at the
Mm-hmm.
same time. So
Yep. Yep.
um, you
Yep.
know, I would be that's another way that you can do it is just by the SMH.
Yep. Facts. But that was a good breakdown, man. Again, keep an eye on STSM, TSM, because I feel like every time you bring those breakdowns, we go watch the stock a couple of weeks later, it's like doing all-time highs. It's crazy, man. So
Because
you heard it here first.
we saw that with ASML
Yeah,
not
yeah.
too long ago.
Yeah, I think when we were reviewing it was like around 600, $700, and the next thing you know, it was like over 1,000. I was like, what the hell just happened? You know,
Yeah.
so that's crazy. But let's move on to the economic calendar, man. Tomorrow, Thursday, 8:30 a.m. We're supposed to get a delay report for September. So we shall see how the numbers looks like. The U.S. employment report is supposed to come out. The U.S. unemployment rate is supposed to come out. And then we have the initial jobless claims also, existing home sales. So there's a few report that's supposed to come out tomorrow. So we'll keep an eye on them. I don't even know if it's gonna come out. Maybe they'll cancel it. I don't know. Are they gonna get the accurate numbers? I don't know. But we shall see, man. And then Friday, we all this week again, we have a lot of different Fed speakers. They're just kind of giving speeches here and there. So just keep an eye on those. Some of them they might say something that might move the market a little bit, but just keep an eye on some of those. So between tomorrow and Friday, there's a bunch of Fed speakers that's going to be talking randomly throughout the day. Trying to see next week we have, I mean, GDP first revision is coming up Wednesday next week.
So I think they said that they're just gonna give um the second the second
Second,
the second data reading. I think they're gonna skip the first one.
okay. A lot of those might be delayed though.
Yeah,
Like
that's true. That's
a
true.
lot of those might be delayed. Like I'm seeing also PCE index supposed to come out next week Wednesday. Core PCE is again. I'm not sure that's going to come out. I think that's probably going to delay it because I don't. The government just opened up, so to get those numbers, I don't know how long it takes to get those numbers, but we shall see.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I know we had some technical difficulties, but I will save my lashings for Target for another day. And they still can't figure it out.
They're not, bro. I'm telling you, they need to get rid of the CEO. They need to get somebody completely from outside. They need to hire old boy that got hired for the Red Lobster. You see how he turned Red Lobster around? Like he took Red Lobster out of bankruptcy and things are changing. What is Target doing? Trying to fix the stores. Like the stores are not the problem.
Yeah,
your,
Target was
your your whole culture is a problem. Like, you know what I
yeah.
mean? It's like focusing on the wrong thing, man. Focusing on the wrong thing. But yeah, it is what it is. We'll see. We'll see if they can fix it up. But overall, man, going into next week, any last minute advice that you want to give the people? Because I feel like we don't have too many going next week. We'll see tomorrow if NVDA can actually hold these gains from overnight. And
So that's what we need to see tomorrow is can NVIDIA hold the gains from today? But I will say this. Um, December 10th Fed meeting is very, very important because that will determine whether we rally into the end of the year or we start to slide. So if you're looking at adding to your positions or if you're looking at getting into the market, I'd be very, very, I would not go all in and just go crazy. I don't think that this environment warrants that just yet. I'd be very cautious. And, you know, how should I put it? Use red days to gradually enter your position. Um, I will also say too, some of these names that got beat up over the last couple of days, Planeteer is a name that got beat up pretty bad. Uh, Intel is a name that got beat up pretty bad. So, some of these names might have some good opportunities going into the end of the year.
yep,
Um, so I would, we'll see what the NVIDIA effect has tomorrow on some of these names. And I
yep,
still think that TSMC, you know, even though it's not a cheap stock, if you have a long-term time horizon, I really still feel that this is a very good company to be a part of. So,
yep, yep, yep. Yep. I would not be surprised if in a couple of years we see this at like at least $500, maybe even more.
yeah.
I mean, we keep saying a couple of years, but every time we say that, it's like within a year it just happens. But um, I
And
wouldn't be
one and
surprised.
and I don't know when I need to find out when the Arizona plants are going to be operational.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
once those things go operational, the amount of chips that that company can pump out on a
you're gonna ramp
regular
up.
basis, and
Hmm.
they start ramping up, yeah,
Yep,
that might be something that can lead to some really, really good positive gains in the future.
yep, yep. All right, y'all. With that being said, that's gonna do it for today's episode of the Wall Street Rundown. Again, we broke down the markets. We talked about Nvidia, the chip game, TCMC, and everything that's moving the AI, moving in the world of AI and money. I mean, if you keep rocking with us, man, if you rock with us, make sure you follow, you share, and please put somebody else's on so they can level up too, so they can get some of this information, man. And as always, it's Billy. I have Wale with me. We'll be back to next week. No, Friday. We'll be back Friday with another headlines, and we talk about all these different things that's happening in the market. And until then, make sure you guys stay smart, stay focused, stay invested. That being said, we are out. You guys have a good night.
All right, thank you for bearing with us through our power outage.
Yeah, we'll still give you guys some good information though. It's like give you guys some fire information. So yeah.
All right, everyone,
All
have a
right.
good